Hello, 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 and welcome to Work Should Feel Good, the show where your career growth meets your real life. I'm your host, Diana Alt, and today my guest, Virginia Franco, and I are going to talk about strategies for your career collateral that can help you land work that feels good. Virginia founded Virginia Franco Resumes years ago, which is exactly how she put it in her bio, after recognizing that her time in corporate communications, journalism, and social work offered a unique understanding of how people read, communicate, and share information. She's a longtime member and past president of the National Resume Writers Association. And she's also been a contributor of multiple publications and podcasts, and even hosted her own podcast, Resume Storyteller, from 2017 to 2023. She's not doing new episodes anymore. She's moved on to other stuff, but that show is still a banger. So go listen to it on Apple and Spotify. Welcome to the show, Virginia. I'm so glad to have you.
Yeah, no, I've been looking forward to it.
Yeah. You were honestly one of the very first career services people that I thought about having on the show. Like I don't even know exactly when I'm going to publish this because, I'm recording quite a few in May, but you were one of the first people because most resume writers I know started as a writer, but they really wanted to be a career coach or an executive.
Yeah.
Been like in that lane of resume writing and loving it for so very long. So
and I've coached, but I really love writing.
I know. And you said that that's your favorite. You have been doing so much. So I'm really excited to get wisdom from you because I think there's a lot of resume writers out there, but not everybody brings that unique perspective. And I always love when I meet a journalist doing anything that isn't journalism. I think it's so interesting. So talk to me about, what do you feel like journalism helps you with in your work? And also I want to hear about social work.
Yeah.
They're two different animals.
So my degree was in journalism. I wrote resumes for years for free. No clue that anyone did it for a living. And then after writing for several years, and I sort of pivoted to social work, I just really wanted to give back, and it was sort of the only way I could think of to do so. And long story short, I got very burnt out, went to a lot of funerals, and then pivoted back to corporate America and back into writing. What the two have in common that I think makes me good at what I do is the ability to ask people the right questions. So journalism, half the battle is interviewing the people and really asking the who, what, where, why, all of those pieces. And then with social work, when you're doing an intake, when you're not necessarily counseling, but I did a lot of case management and crisis management. Pulling out the information was so important because it informed the treatment plan and where you referred them to. And that is not unlike I use those skills today to interview my clients to hear their job search stories and then, write stuff down on paper, but or on the screen. But that's the commonality between the two. I'm a really, really good interviewer.
You don't do forms, right?
I don't. I have before. I hate them though. Because number one, some people it stresses them out. And two, I have found that a lot of times just the back and forth conversation, it might feel sort of all over the place, but it pulls out details that get missed when people are trying to write down their own information. It can be really hard to write your own blood, sweat, and tears and be objective about it. So they just get on the phone with me. They can be walking through the park, in an airport, wherever it is, and let me do the questions, they answer, and then I get to work.
I do. I just started offering resumes this year. So I'm the opposite of all the other people. It was funny.
Okay.
I went to the PARC, Professional Association of Resume Writers and Career Coaches, which is a mouthful. I went to the conference.
You did? Yeah.
Yeah, I went. It was fun at the end of April. And there's all these people there that have been writing resumes for 5, 10, however many years. And now they're more interested in the coaching side. And I'm the exact opposite. I started I've taught resumes for years. I've taught.
Yeah, you know the ins and outs of resumes for sure.
Thank you for saying that. The fact that you think that is a big deal to me. but I didn't offer them as a service because I do a very high touch premium approach to it, which means it's not cheap. So,
Yeah.
and we can dig into a little bit of like what is some of the difference and what makes for a great resume and not. Like that's part of the reason you're here. But I started doing that and I was like, I don't want to do forms either because who cares? Like most people that come to me already have a resume, even if it's a few years out of date. Like
Mhm.
I can get the what languages you had. I can't get your overarching narrative and your best stories from a form. I
Yeah.
get
I
that from
mean, and that's what works for me. Some people do great with forms. It is not my thing. I love the interview piece.
yeah, I'm the same way for you. So I want to hear about the very first resume you did that you made money for, that
Oh
someone,
God. Ah,
what do you remember? Or a really early one? Tell
I
us about
mean, yeah, I did them for free, like I said, for a million years. Yeah, so the first one I did for free was I mean, I think I made $100 on it. It was a neighbor of mine during the Great Recession. I lived in a neighborhood in Charlotte, home to two banks that got crushed during the financial crisis, and everyone got laid off. It was like Armageddon. And I I was freelance writing and I was trying to explore resume writing and I did like two neighbors for free. And this guy's like, well, I'll pay you. And I'm like, all right, well, give me $100. And and he used it to pivot out of financial services into a new industry. So that was super exciting.
cool because
Yeah.
that is not easy to do on a resume.
That was way before I had a website or a company name. All that stuff came after. Very much accidental entrepreneur
Yeah,
for me.
I did a little bit of that. My first two career coaching clients were people that asked to pay me. I was like, because I'd help people for free for years.
Yeah, yeah.
And they're like, what do you charge? And I'm like, let me get back to
Yeah, exactly.
and so my first that I did, I actually pegged it to their pay. Uh,
Oh,
and so
oh, you're way savvier than me with that stuff.
well, I was making 90K in 2012 or 14 or whenever that was. So the very first one was someone that was working a contract job for like $16 an hour, 1099, completely abused, toxic environment.
Mm,
Her goal was she was a Navy vet. So her goal was actually to get out of that and see if she could find a job in the federal government, which she did. So I said, I have to prep and follow up. And so give me $32 for a session because it's 2x what her pay was.
right.
And then there was
Oh,
another
yeah.
gentleman that was targeting 100K. And I said, well, we'll just do $50 because I couldn't even think about $100.
Yeah,
Like that was the very first people. That guy still comes to me.
that's
So
amazing.
we went
That's
from like
amazing.
58K to 100K in the job that we worked on. And then ever since then, like comes to me for a session or two every 12 to 18 months. It's like, hey, I'm considering a promotion or hey, I'm trying to position myself for this. So I've had this long standing relationship. Now he pays rack rate and every time he tells me,
Amazing. That's
yeah,
amazing. Yeah, I was not that savvy. I was writing articles for like Livestrong and travel.com and
oh,
what's the one that everyone goes to? Not Mayo Clinic, one of those healthcare websites. Now I'm spacing on it. And just writing, it was like $30 an article.
yeah,
But I knew and understood how companies worked and the roles that
yeah,
people play in a company. So I'm like, well, I can talk to anybody about their job. Tell me what, and I can write it to anything.
yeah,
So making $100 felt great compared to
yeah,
$30 articles.
yeah, yeah. I love that stuff. And I've done a little bit of paid blogging. Um, but it was like the pay situation was different because I had a byline. But the Slack,
Oh, no, this was a company called Demand Media, and they would have a portal with all these articles that you got to write. And so I wrote about the coolest locations on the planet. I just never got to leave and go anywhere.
yeah, how exciting!
Yeah.
So love it. $100 for your very first
Hmm.
resume. Help somebody pivot out of finance. Do you remember what industry that client went to?
They went into, I want to say tech. They were a finance person
Okay.
within banking, and they moved into finance. They did like financial planning analysis, and I moved them into technology.
Oh, cool. That's
Mhm.
exciting. People think that's so impossible, and it's totally
Yeah.
possible. So,
But what this person did that was smart, he didn't apply online. I don't even know if there was online in 2008. I don't remember. Um, but he started talking to people and got his resume in front of people to tell the story. He talked to me, told his story to me, saw it on paper, and then he was armed with fodder to have those conversations with people so that he would be perceived as not a huge risk trying to make a move like that.
yeah. Um, Big fan of that. And I love how, like, one of the things I always had a back and forth on DIY for resume versus paying for a resume
Mm. Mhm.
because I've known too many people that had a resume written for them and they hadn't internalized the stories that make the conversation
Yeah.
like your
Yeah.
first person. So it's like they had a good resume and it might hit, they might apply, they might get
If you
interviewed.
can't speak to it, then
But
it's like
if
forest
you
in the woods or whatever that phrase.
if
Yeah.
well, definitely if you can't sit down in an interview and talk about those stories, you're in trouble. But you're just as in trouble if you sit down at the bar to have a hamburger for lunch at your local pub, and then a person that's the director of whatever you do sits down next to you and you start chatting. Like
That's right.
if you are not ready for that, which is all about very short, succinct stories, you're going to lose that opportunity. So,
That's right, and that's why I don't work with people until they're pretty crystal clear on their target, um, because then they've done a lot of that homework around what their deal breakers are, exactly what they want to target, and then it makes for really strong marketing collateral, really good interview responses, really good immediate pitches. Um,
that's good stuff. Do you
that's important,
partner
yeah.
with career coaches that don't like to write resumes so that
Um,
you can
I
be
have
sure?
coaches Yeah, I have coaches that send people to me. It just depends on the timing.
Okay.
So yeah, I definitely work with coaches, but if someone comes to me and they feel like they could go in a number of different directions for which it requires multiple resumes and writing a cohesive LinkedIn would be hard, then I send them to people that sort of specialize in helping people get career clarity. And
Got
then
it.
once they've got it, if they want to work with me, then I write their stuff.
Okay. That's cool. Thanks for sharing.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, the name of the show is Work Should Feel Good. It is not, we're going to talk more about resume stuff, but this is also about you. So, you've had your business for a long time. Before
Mhm.
we got on, we were talking about a couple of things that you do in your business that a lot of other people find hard. What are some things that you do in your business that make it feel better, make your work feel good? And I'm really interested in hearing the things that other people say can't be done, like your summer that we were talking about,
Mhm.
and that maybe other people say, well, you can't run a resume writing business that way. Like, tell us a few of those things.
So, oh gosh, that is such a good question. Uh, I'll talk about what I did in the summers. I have 4 kids. Now they're out of school and 2 in college, 2 are off the payroll. But when I was building this business, they were little, and summer camps and programs were so expensive. And so I did the ROI, and I realized it made sense for me to scale back dramatically for 6 weeks every summer. Um, so that I didn't have to drown in childcare costs, is long story short. And so
So every year you've had
I
six
did it I
hiatus.
did it from when they were in, oh God, I probably did it for 10, 12 years. I did it until they got out of, till the youngest could drive the car. This is
Wow.
pretty much when I stopped.
Time.
Um, and now I'm traveling a lot throughout the year. So instead of taking a concentrated amount of time, I'm taking off chunks throughout the year.
Okay.
And so what I did was I didn't say, hey guys, I'm taking off because I need to go, you know, take my kids to the pool and the beach and tennis and video game playing or whatever I was doing. I just I changed my social media habits. Instead of posting regularly, I said, I'm not going to post for 6 weeks. I'm going to just comment all day long, and see what happens. And then I did not take any new clients. What I did do is I focused on returning clients. Part of my business model is that once I've worked with you, I can be your writer in perpetuity. So if a client came back to me, and needed an update, I could fit that in because it was, 10-minute phone call, a couple hours of writing. It wasn't that big, deep process. And I didn't take any sales calls. I wasn't trying to land new clients.
Got it.
Um, and so what, to my surprise, happened was number one, yes, my LinkedIn engagement dropped off, but I still was getting enough to sustain me. And because I had kept the engagement going when I came back to posting, um, it was not a hard rebuild. I didn't feel like I was starting from ground zero. Secondly, I had clients that said, well, I'm okay with waiting and I don't need to talk to you. And I said, okay, well, then I'll review your documents. I'll provide you some feedback and I'll offer you a date to work together 6 weeks down the road.
Got it.
And my close rate wasn't as great as when I spoke to them on the phone, but it was good enough. And so when I went back to work, I had, at least a 3-week window of people, um, which was enough to
You
then I could hit the ground running.
a lot of what people are afraid of when they think about taking, well, heck, a lot of people are afraid of it if they take a day off. But
Right.
most people can't fathom taking like 10 days to 2 weeks off
I
because
mean,
they're
yeah, it's a lot of time. I get that. It's a lot of time off. And I was working 20 hours a week instead of 40, 50. But I was scared to death of what would happen to my lead generation, my sales close rates, all of that. And I was really pleasantly surprised. And so I just kept at it. And then as the years grew through word of mouth and all of that, I relied less on my business coming from LinkedIn and the marketing and more on word of mouth. And so the last time I took a 6-week period off, when I came back, I was booked out 2 months.
wow,
And so
well done.
it was really manageable. Yay. Yay.
Yay, very good. So, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
One of the big things that comes up a lot, especially like I focus a lot of my business in the tech market. So even people that aren't
Mm,
software engineers and product managers and stuff, a lot of them work in tech, even if they're in like L&D and marketing. I also
right, right,
work
right.
like, um, is this difference between the resume from the bigger name company that can afford to run a million Facebook and LinkedIn ads, but the resume only costs like $200 to $250. And then like what you and I do that is
Hmm.
much more premium. So
Yeah.
I was looking on your websites and right now it looks like it's between like 1,100 and 2,500 for
Yeah.
resumes.
I'm at the low end of the high. That's sort of how I
The low
feel.
and the high.
That's it.
I'm in the
Hmm.
same kind of boat. Like mine are
Hmm.
kind of 1,250 to 2,400 ish
Hmm.
for my resume packages. Like, what is the difference? How do you explain the difference between those much lower cost resumes and what you do?
Yeah. That's a really good question. I actually, before I launched my own company, I worked for companies as a team of a ton of writers, and I saw good ones and I saw not so good ones, and a lot of those lessons learned I used to, like, well, when I start my own company or if I start my own, this is what I'm going to do. What I found was, number one, the training that I had back then wasn't nearly what I know now, and so um, a lot of times when people are charging higher dollar, they bring a wealth of experience that I certainly didn't have, all those years ago. But really, more importantly, there were limitations on um, how much face time I could get with them. Some of the companies I work for, I wasn't even allowed to talk to the client.
Oh,
It
wow.
was either done all through questionnaire. There were limits on revisions. There was just a lot of parameters. And I have heard through the grapevine that some companies have limits on just how much time you can even spend writing them. You're expected to produce at a very high level, and uh, quantity is more important than quality. And
Okay.
and that was not for me. So if you are a really good writer, If your story is not complicated, and the target that you're where you want to get to from where you're starting is not that big of a leap, then maybe that company could work great. Take what they wrote and then edit it yourself. Use ChatGPT. But if that is not the case, then talking to a person who can pull the right information out and be strategic in terms of the writing, um, that costs more.
Yeah, I look at it as you're paying me to include your career narrative, like the overall arc, which is, if you do that right, that's how people can switch industry.
Yeah.
Because you can show what transfers, and you can also, like one of the clients I worked with recently, the arc is from another industry into healthcare IT. And they actually had early retired and then were terrible at being retired. So they wanted to go back, but in the interim had some of their own medical stuff. And so their firsthand experience with the medical system made them want to take their old technical knowledge, train on like Epic or Cerner or whatever EMRs, and then be able to go into this field that they hadn't actually worked in actively. Like that kind of story, you're not going to get for $200.
And you need to know to ask how to ask the right questions. I'm writing a resume right now of someone who had been in marketing and PR agencies forever. And she has a passion now for angel investing. And she said, I want to be an advisor to founders, which is a totally different resume. She's like, and she's right, with her old one, she's got enough cachet. She could walk into any agency. She doesn't need me. But for this, it's a strategic pivot. And I needed to pull out different information from her client stories than I would have if she was just trying to get a job with another agency.
Yeah. So that client that I was mentioning, they had been at like big consulting, had principal architect as a title on their resume from one of their past employers, and had helped sell millions of dollars of consulting contracts and architect these solutions and all this stuff. And I had to change the language because they're trying to look for like an analyst role now. We're not going to talk about like overall enterprise architecture.
And so there's lingo you need to know, and there's industry lingo. I've written a ton of federal resumes lately, people from the federal government that got Doge. You got to translate what they do. Military to civilian, all of that. Yeah, it's a different world, different map, different language. So
the time it takes to understand the problems. And 70% of the people that I work with, or maybe a little more, work in roles that I actually worked with.
Oh, okay.
I
didn't work in those roles, but because I did corporate communications, I had to interview the people across every function and corporate function.
Yeah. And I haven't been a CIO, but I reported to CIOs and stuff like that. So, and I very much dig into what problems do these people actually solve. And it's wild because when they're a genius at solving them, they don't always even need to say it. They look like I fix stuff. I make solutions. They can't say it. So that's the difference. So folks, that is the difference between the 25 resume and the 4-year resume.
Yes.
And whichever one you need is what you should buy. So
that's right.
how people read matters. That's a theme on your LinkedIn and your website. You learned it from your experience. Talk to us a little bit about how people read resumes, and what the average person does not understand about that, because it's so different.
Yeah, I've been on my soapbox about this for years. So people tend to read first reviews of a resume, number one, in a super skim fashion. Not even your own mother is probably going to read your resume with a fine-tooth comb, but they are largely reading it on some sort of a screen. It might be a phone if someone is, in field sales. It might be a laptop. It might be an iPad. But then as the job search progresses or as the interviews progress, you're going to have that hiring manager that just wants to print it out. so they can look at it or take notes on it and go old school. And so the challenge is you've got to write a document that reads just as well, whether someone pulls it up on their iPhone or if they print it out.
Yeah.
Luckily, documents designed for screen reads tend to print out fine. They do print out fine. The problem is that documents designed to be read,
On
to
paper.
be written for print, the way we were taught, that's the way we were taught to write in high school. They do not convey well to screens, and they can make for brutal mobile reads. And that's because our eyes do two things differently. And by taking it into account, you can facilitate a skim read of anything: email, slide deck, resume. First and foremost, we have a really hard digesting really dense or crowded text. So do you ever see, when you go online and you sign you like click on terms and conditions, or, all the cookies and blah, blah,
23 paragraphs, including
yeah,
this.
it's like this big 8-point font, and there's no way you're going to read it. They know that because it's crowded, it's dense. That's what happens to us. And when you have a paragraph that's maybe 5 lines on a big screen, that's fine. But that 5-line paragraph, when you open it up on your phone, turns into like a 12-line paragraph. And if something is hard to read and you're in a rush, you run the risk that the reader's going to skip it because we are lazy that way. The other thing that our eyes do differently online is that we jump all over the place. We're like ADHD squirrels online in a way that we don't. When we were trained to read on a page, you read like F, or you read like that. You're not, or you read like left to right. You're not jumping. And so what I do, number one, to avoid dense text, I keep my paragraphs to 2 to 3 lines. I add space between them. That's an easy fix. Recognizing that people jump around a lot, I will use just very minor design elements. You and I both do not like design for design's sake, but I'll use bolding, I'll use shading, I'll go caps versus, sentence case if I want the reader to focus on one piece or another. When I'm writing something, I will front load it, which means I put the good stuff at the beginning of the sentence, because
Bury the lead. Hello.
right, ADD readers don't
Yes.
stay around to the end. And then when people are reading a series of bullets, jumpy readers start with number 1, but then if they happen to have extra time, they don't usually read in order. They don't go 1, 2, 3, 4. They read 1, then they go to 5. They often don't read anymore. And so I'm strategic in terms of ordering bullets so that the first most important thing appears on the top, and then secondarily, second. And then if there's like 9 bullets, I don't want death by bullets. And so I'll break them into subcategories with 5 bullets on the first one and 4 on the other.
I do some of the same things. We should trade some resumes when we get done
Okay.
here. But some of what I do is there's different styles that I use to show skills, and it kind of depends on industry. Like product management has so freaking many skills that people expect to have, but I'm less likely to do like the tables or things like that people do. And sometimes I will do like a bullet point with a heading, like here's the product strategy stuff, and here's the.
And you list the keyword as a bullet.
Yes.
Yeah.
I list like a high level keyword as a bullet and then put more information. And I always put, depending on what's going on with the person, either like platforms, tools, framework stuff last, or for product managers, always industries. So if they've worked in more than 2 industries, I will put it last, because what you have to show for a lot of people is if they don't have 10 years in an industry, you have to show they can learn an industry. So when they see this thing at the bottom of that skills list, it's like, oh, well, they've been successfully in 4 industries. That makes sense.
And it depends on what they're targeting. If they want to lean in and be an industry specialist, then you reference that industry in the headline at the top.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you need, and so I call it like a knowledge snapshot, where for not a CIO, but let's say like a head of software engineering, someone a little bit more junior, or not a chief product officer, but one a little bit lower, I'll do like leadership skills, platforms that they know, frameworks that they know, industries that they've served, and that sort of goes all into one piece.
I think we're saying almost the same.
Yeah. Where the placement depends on.
But I did when I'm trying to tell the story, like absolutely, if someone like worked in an industry for a lot of years and they're leaning into that for sure. Emphasize that.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people have worked I know a lot of people that have worked in SaaS across
Mm-hmm.
multiple industries. And we're in a situation right now where people are using, do you have a zillion years in an industry as one of their criteria when this tech market is weird.
Yeah. Yep.
So for people that literally just don't have that for where they're going, I want to show this person learns the industry. Part of
That's
their
right.
superpower is that they bring the independence that helps you see things that you wouldn't have seen. And I was this person. So
Yeah.
not work.
Yeah, the other thing that I always make sure to call out is where if there's industry commonality. And I tell people, if you were in this industry, like you're in a really heavily regulated industry, so
Yes.
so maybe consider targeting another heavily regulated industry.
Yeah.
And so just show that commonality up. So it all that's the strategy piece that we were talking about. It all depends on what they're going for.
Yeah. And it does take time.
Mhm.
But it's fun. I'm
I
actually
love it. I love it. And I like startup world. I love people that are targeting Fortune 100s. Like it's just really cool stories and it's like a puzzle.
yeah, it is like a puzzle. How do you so one of the things for if you want to find a job that really feels good to you, it
Mhm.
definitely goes way beyond like what are the results that we're trying to show and what are the skills. Everybody's worried about the ATS keyword search thing that isn't even a thing, but
Mhm.
beyond what's their skills and beyond metrics and context that show results, fit and feeling good at work has to do with values and those kind of intangibles, the way that we move through the world. How do you capture some of that stuff? Because there's a difference between somebody that is, I'm good with the chaos of launch, or I'm good
Mhm.
with these more chaotic environments, and I motivate and inspire the team, and the person that is, I am cool in chaos. They can have the same job, or
Right.
I am the the more strategic person that will help you with the things I work on now. You're going to feel it 5 years from now still because we've done such a good job. What are some of the ways that you like to convey those values and those things that are special? Because that's another thing.
So yeah. So number one, I asked to see a handful of job postings of interest because I want to understand, yes, the role, but I want to understand the kinds of cultures that they're attracted to. And I want to go through those postings and read the deal breakers. Um, if someone, the other thing I always make sure to ask before we've even started working together is, do you love the leadership piece or do you like being an individual contributor? What kinds of companies are you targeting? If it's the startup world, then is it because you love chaos, you love wearing multiple hats?
Yeah.
Or do you like fortune companies where you have to navigate really complex matrix organizations? So having a sense for that, where they're headed, allows me to ask the right
So
questions. So,
where and
uh,
why, right?
exact and the why. And if someone says, well, I've been working, this is my last gig before I retire. I need to feel good about myself when I go to bed. Then I'm probably going to include language that speaks to being, mission driven, purpose driven organizations. Um, if leadership is really important, I'm going to make sure to ask questions like, what why do you love to lead? What's the strategy that you've used to motivate your teams over and over again? Most people have a rinse and repeat strategy that they have used to build teams, keep teams, fix hot messes, all of those things. And I just have them walk me through it. And
Yeah.
then that becomes their brand. And then I can explain with stories in each of their roles.
I like the way you thought about the way you articulated that most people have strategies that they use. And I haven't thought about that as much with resumes as I have with interviews, because the thing that you and I might have learned 15, 20 years ago, like that was at the very beginning when people were starting to talk about star or car or
Yeah,
instant.
yeah, yeah. Yeah.
But now a high percentage of companies are saying, we're doing behavioral interviews. We suggest you familiarize yourself with STAR. So it's no longer special. to answer a question in the STAR format, especially if you don't do it effectively.
And you know
So
what? And behavioral interviewing was part of social work way back when. So this is
really,
not, yeah.
know
Tell
that.
me about a time when this, because you're trying to figure out what their problem is. Yeah.
I had never thought, yeah, that
Yeah.
makes sense. I do that in coaching. Like, I
Yeah.
never thought about
Yeah.
it that way.
Yeah.
But in any case, what I was going to say is like, it's no longer special to be able to answer an interview question with a, let's call it B minus star answer, because everybody can do that now, or a whole lot of people, a high percentage.
People are figuring it out. Yeah.
So what I have started doing is talking to my clients about what I call framework plus star. And you do it very simply. So when someone asks you about something and you're like, I've done that 5 times or 50 times, there's an old public speaking premise of tell them what you're going to tell them, then tell them what you told them, right? So if you get asked, how would you handle it if like the project sponsor suddenly is angry about the progress of the project and everything's in chaos? Well, if you've handled that a couple times, which every program manager in America has handled a couple of times, then instead of saying, here's a situation, task, action, result, you say, oh, I've run across that multiple times in my career. I have a 3-step approach. I like to do this, this, and this. And you use it's very short. It can be in 1 to 2 sentences, all of that. And then you say, let me tell you about an example.
Then example, that's right.
And you show how you followed the framework when you're answering in STAR. And you say, and that's how I use my approach to it's just bringing people along.
That's right. And what I have found is sometimes people don't even recognize that they have a rinse and repeat formula until we have walked, because they haven't had the luxury of going through their career. And so I sort of try to get answers to 4 basic questions. And I tell people, if you have to write it yourself, this is what you should ask yourself. What did things look like at the beginning? What did things look like at the end? What was your role in moving things from beginning to end? And then why did it matter? And that allows you to create, usually it's when when you go through it over and over, you're like, I sort of did the same thing. The results might have been different, and the context might have been different, but it allows you to sort of explain your approach in the branding at the top, and then the experiences you're walking them through what it looked like.
That's great. That's a great way to think about it. And yes, people have no idea how they do things a lot of times.
Yes, I mean, some people have huge awareness, but a lot of people don't. So
yeah, they don't. And something I've seen, like it's more likely for people that are like director and VP and plus, because you're actually paid to make decisions and create frameworks that your team can work on.
that's true.
They're safer, but the people that are like maybe they were a manager and they're hoping they can level up.
They're trying to get in.
Yep. If they can showcase that framework stuff. Oh, we could nerd out about
and that's why asking them why did it matter? How did it benefit the team, the client, the company? And I'll go to ChatGPT if there's a public company and say, did the share price go up? Did the revenues go up? Did the market share go up? And it allows me to tie their accomplishments to the bigger picture, which shows insights into strategy that can help them to position them for that next level job.
It's so good. Especially if the company shares enough information. I work with a lot of people that are in product. So unless they're a CPO or like the top product person, it's a product line that they're trying to show impact of. And that can be really hard to get information.
It can be hard to pull. I've been surprised by some of the stuff I pulled on ChatGPT. I'll be honest with you.
That's interesting. Very cool. So what are some of the things on a resume that matter most at different stages? So like very early in your career, kind of that middle or maybe like first line of leadership part of your career. And then when you're hitting that VP and C-suite, because I think a lot of people think a resume is a resume is a resume, but it's 100% not. So what should people pay the most attention to at each stage to tell their story correctly?
So when you're writing an early career resume or like a new grad resume, you don't have a lot of experience, right? You're trying to show how your skills that you've learned or beginning to acquire could be applied in real world situations. So for students, when I write for kids, I'll be like, tell me about your couple of classes that you're proud of. Tell me about some projects you worked on. Um, and to me, those stories are often a lot more impactful than, um, or tell a lot more than what they did in the internship where they didn't do anything, or it was hard for them to do anything because they were doing grunt work, or when they worked at, as a server. And so I think about that. During those first few years, though, you're cementing skills, and you're contributing to a smaller effort. And so but I still think the same questions are important. How did this benefit the team, your manager, your customer?
It could be a team of 3 people that had
Right.
new Tableau dashboards, not we're going to make 50 million more dollars this year.
That's right. That's right. You're a smaller cog in the wheel. As you get higher up the food chain, then you are often directing teams. You are, even if you don't have directs, you might be influencing bigger groups. So giving a sense of the scope, I think, is important.
Okay.
If again, it depends on the target, but in product roles or in project roles, you need to show I've worked with 100K to $100 million budgets or whatever it is, teams of 3 to 30. I feel like showing that scope becomes more important, because it shows an ability to be adaptable and agile depending on what you're targeting. Gosh, what else? As you move up the chain, the technologies, your deep expertise around technology doesn't matter as much. What matters is, were you involved in vendor selection and vetting and implementation? Can you lead the people that know all the technology? And then when you're moving up to the executive level and C-suite, it's how did what you do advance the CEO or the board or the corporation's larger strategy?
Yes. In certain cases, especially I think CTOs and chief product officers, and CEOs in particular, how did your contribution impact the company and also the industry? Because people at that level, they want to be industry movers. If you helped a company grow quickly and significantly, that's great. But if the whole industry was growing 2 times bigger than you were, it is less impressive. So if you can kind of roll in a little
with
bit.
CFOs, chief marketing officers, chief revenues officers, sales, even chief legal for that matter, or general counsel, companies that are growing do so through acquisition, by going into new markets, by launching new products, by being industry groundbreaking stuff. And so showing that you're advancing the company's larger strategy through these things.
Yep. You heard it here, guys. Results at all levels.
Ding, ding, ding.
I also like to talk to people about influencing up, because the way I explain it often to people is when you're like that frontline manager, your main job is to make sure the team under you is getting stuff done. So it's about down, like out to your peers. And then when you go another layer up, like that is important, but less important because you're doing more to shape your function. And then the farther up you get, the more you have to manage up. Like you should.
And then you're reporting to your board, you're part of leadership committees, all of those things. That's right.
So,
but you still have teams of direct, so you're still accountable.
Yeah.
For that stuff. And so.
But if you're the CTO, you're not accountable to making sure that the Scrum team increased velocity, unless you're in a startup that has one Scrum team and your title's inflated. You're responsible for, are we, with our technical practices and partnership with business, are we kind of reducing time to market in general because of how we work together? Are we capturing revenue that way? Yeah.
And you're right. And so when you get to the other point that I'm thinking, most roles influence the top and the bottom line. Not most, many influence the top and the bottom line. So a CTO, the investments they make increase operations, but they also might help grow sales. So you're doing both. A
Yes.
COO is focused only on margins. CEOs top and bottom. Um, and you need to, the other piece that I'm also thinking about on the CTO front and then a couple different other C-suite roles is you're thinking about, did you get buy-in to make big investments? Because you got to convince the CTO has to convince the CEO or the board, I need a lot of money to totally redo this tech stack. The chief
Mhm.
marketing officer has to implement a system. Chief operating officer has to implement an ERP. CHROs have to implement certain software too. And so building the case that gets buy-in for changes and investments is another piece that you need
That's
to
a
think
really
about.
great point. And I
Mhm.
think CTOs are one of the most difficult roles because most CTOs grew up out of tech. You don't see a lot of people that didn't spend most of
Mhm.
their early career in tech. But fundamentally, it's a business role. It is
Yeah,
a role that understands the tech. And so, like,
how
that
tech advances strategy. Yeah.
that is a bit. I occasionally have a tech leader that's like, I think I'm ready for a CTO role. And I often have to hold their hand while I say it, as the kids say on TikTok.
Mhm.
They're not, because they haven't done that. And I actually do career development stuff. So sometimes I'm trying to help them
Okay.
understand what hole they have to plug, but it's interesting stuff.
But
Well,
when you start with the before, after, what you did to get it from point A to point B and why does it matter, you tend to get answers to all those questions no
yeah,
matter the level.
yeah. Well, thank you for that. I am going to do what I call the lightning round. That's not really a lightning
Okay.
round.
All
And then
right.
we'll talk about how people can get to know you. I've been flashing the things up, but eventually
Oh,
this will be audio only.
okay.
So we have to handle it. So my first one is, what is the worst piece of career advice you've ever received?
Don't say no.
Don't say no. Oh, that one hurts, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Especially for women, because sometimes the don't say no is don't say no to making the coffee when you don't even drink
It
coffee.
was all of the extra volunteer stuff and stretched myself very, very, very thin.
Yeah. I've done that too. How
Mhm.
about a personal habit that has helped you be successful?
I have I have very strict rules that I impose on myself on responding to emails, texts, messages, and being responsive. I feel like puts me ahead of a lot of people that don't take that time.
What's your rules? I want to unpack this.
I respond to texts within 2 hours, emails within half a day, LinkedIn's within the day, and I turn around edits within 24 hours,
Wow.
5 days to get the resume.
Wow. So here's a question.
Hmm.
It's brain work, like it's thinking work to write, especially an initial resume, at least for
Hmm.
me. So, what are the rhythms and kind of guardrails you put in place so that you're not compromising your ability to focus and get in the
The
zone of
focus.
the resume, but you're still maintaining the responsiveness?
So I'm ADD. Thinking of it. So I have to take a lot of breaks from the work so that I can 'cause I need to move around. And so during those breaks I'll go check my email or I'll run outside and I'll be on my phone responding to texts and then I'll get back and I turn on brown noise on my phone and the brown noise helps me to focus. Um
I don't know what
and
brown
I'll just
noise is. There's
oh
all
my gosh,
kinds of noise.
it's just the white noise app. I'll find it. And brown noise is one of the colors.
What's it
Is
like?
my app. So hold
I,
on. Blue
I'll
noise, violet, white noise. Oh, you hear that?
yeah, kind of. I'm gonna go play with that later.
Yeah. So it's a different color. There's blue, white, yellow, but brown. I found it and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like clearing the cobwebs from my brain. And my friend's like, oh no, they wrote about that in the New York Times. It's actually a thing. So I write sections. So I'll do all the low hanging fruit, like I'll set up the categories, and then I'll knock out education and volunteering, and then I'll go take another break, and then I'll write two
Mm,
jobs and take another break. And so that's how I do it. But it takes me a good 10 hours to write a resume and a LinkedIn profile, sometimes longer.
nice.
That's after a 90-minute, 2 hour interview. So
Because I've talked to a lot of people that are like, I can bang out a resume in 2 hours, and I'm sitting here thinking that can't be good. And then
I
I
mean,
look,
I can write a new grad resume in a couple hours, but
yeah. Well, I've seen people that are writing like VP resumes, and they're like,
oh,
just a couple
yeah, I'm
hours,
not that fast.
that can't be good. Then I look and I'm like, damn, that actually is good. So
Good. I'm not that fast.
different. Everybody does it differently. But I
Yeah.
also almost never have revisions because I get the story so right. And also I've kind of trained my clients that their opinion doesn't matter as much as they think it does about their resume. So when we're revising, we focus on inaccuracies first.
Hmm.
And then if there's, oh, well, I might, I have a lot of my people have two different resumes. I'll write one and then I'll guide them on the other. And so if
Mm-hmm.
they ask me, hey, we're doing this thing for program management, but I'm also applying for engineering leadership. Like, can you help me with X? That I'll guide them on if that was part of the scope of the project. Okay,
I
so
make sure, yeah, I'll spend time to walk through the strategy because a lot of times people don't have edits as much as they want to understand
how to do it.
why, yeah, why I wrote what I wrote. Yeah.
Yeah, I do a little video. Loom is one of my
Okay.
tools.
Oh, yeah.
So I often do a video for people. And when I'm doing drafts of the resume, I typically do it. I give them a Google Doc with comments on the side.
Hmm.
And then we answer all the questions. And I let them know, like, sometimes, Google Doc being crazy and us having to change something, there may be another edit for space reasons to make room for the thing we decided was more important.
Got it. Yeah.
Anyway, what is something you've changed your mind about recently? Could be personal, could be business and work and resumes. What have you changed your mind about?
Yeah. So I used to be more on the fence about the banner, the open to work banner on LinkedIn. I was like, just A/B test it, and see if it works for you. It doesn't work. But I was in a room talking to Linda Brubaker, who I love, and she said, you know what? Um, there are enough people that have purchased LinkedIn's recruiting software that are searching specifically for that. Um, and if you're someone who doesn't want to work for a company that is going to you know, be biased against you because you're looking for work, then that's not your thing, then go ahead and turn it on. So I've become more of a champion of it. Although the caveat is that be prepared for lots of spam if you turn it
Yeah,
on.
yeah.
Hmm.
I'm still on team A/B test, but I also
Maybe.
customize my advice because the advice that I'm going to give to somebody that is a senior project manager that got laid off is different from the advice I'm going to give even to someone that's in the C-suite and not working because the way they
Mm.
conduct their search is different.
That's
And
that's so true. Yeah. And again, it always depends. But I used to be blanket any industry, just test it out, see what you think, or
yeah,
talk to other people. And now I'm more
yeah,
for
cool.
now.
Thank you for sharing that. And then the last question I have is what is a common misconception people have about your work?
I think they think that it's easy, that
It's
anyone can do it. I have people that come to me, they'll call and go, well, I have a resume, it just needs a new job updated. Um, and that's not what I do. Because there's strategy, there's formatting. Your resume from 2012 needs more than just updating your last two jobs.
I can't
Um,
remember the last time I saw a resume that only needed the last job added.
no, it doesn't. And so that's just, and that's not my client. That might be the $200 client. Those are, um, it's a fundamental misunderstanding of the role that I play in writing someone's
That
story.
person, like if I run across that person, I'd rather just teach them how to do it because
Well, I'll send them a sample of
yeah,
somebody that's in that role and say, I'm
yeah,
not your person. I do overhauls. There's some samples and then
Well, thank you very much.
yeah,
That
no, great questions.
I can't believe it's like 54 minutes since we started.
Ah,
Where I've put some things up. What are you working on right now? Is it prepping for some more summer travel or
I'm going on a women's adventure trip to New Mexico. I'm going to be fly fishing, e-biking, horseback riding, and hiking. So,
nice?
yeah, so
Great.
you can find me resume, my website is Virginia Franco Resumes. I had to come up with the name of a company on the fly when my accountant told me I needed one, and so that's why I named it after myself.
Yeah. So
Mhm.
virginiafrancoresumes.com. Reach out, see her stuff. She has your website is great.
Oh, thanks.
If you've got questions about what it's like to work with a resume writer, I was just looking at this in prep to record this episode. You have one of the best FAQ sections I've seen,
Oh,
and
thanks.
you have pretty good price transparency too. Like there's so many different things that impact the price of a resume. You've done a really great job showing range.
Thank you. Yeah, I've tried to show ranges. I don't love a la carte or bundled stuff only because I am not good at math, and so I'd rather just let people.
Yeah,
And honestly, I just want people to pick and choose what they need, and take it from there. So
great. Well, thank you very much for coming.
thank you.
I appreciate it. You are one of my very favorite resume storytellers.
Oh,
So hopefully we'll get to do this again sometime.
yeah. I'm glad you're in my life. I've loved knowing you these last couple of years. So
Oh, I appreciate that so
yeah.
much. I enjoyed knowing you too.